slide deck. So once again, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining for another session of Azure Power Lunch. And quick disclaimer one more time, this call is being recorded and we place our recordings on our YouTube channel. If you don't, I'm not comfortable with it, please drop off now. Also, this call is joined by our Microsoft team members as well as members of our customers and partners. So with that, we will move ahead with our topic of discussion today, which is not Ignite. We just want to let everybody know that Ignite conference is happening next week. It's virtual as well. If you are invited, go, please attend. But if not, I mean, just like me, you will be would like to attend the virtual conference. There's going to be a lot of exciting announcements and things like that. And um, uh, I will be covering those, and we will be covering those in the upcoming sessions. So with that, um, here is a quick agenda. We are going to be going over gRPC support in Azure App Service. So now you can host a gRPC app on Azure App Service. Okay. So first of all, we're going to talk about what is gRPC uh, and why we care about it, and then how we're going to deploy the apps on App Service. Okay. So with that, um, gRPC is short for Google RPC. Basically, it's RPC on steroids. It is a framework, for high performance RPC application. Okay. Um, it runs on, it uses HTTP2. So with that, it takes advantage of all the goodies that comes with HTTP2. Again, we will talk about it in a second. And um, so it's an IDL based framework. So you create your IDL and it uses proto language, protocol buffers, which is also another open source project. And by the way, gRPC is also an open source project as well. So you use protocol buffer to define your message as well as your service. And then gRPC basically converts it to code and you write your service, and then the same interface you take it to the client, and that's how you do. I mean, you implement that as well. If somebody remembers ATL, that active, template library. I mean, that used to be ATL services a long time ago in C++. For Microsoft, it kind of similar thing, but this is gRPC. And one other thing is, so let's move on. Why you care about it? Why you should care about it, or why this is a big deal? gRPC, as I said, runs on HTTP2. And as HTTP was a text protocol, HTTP2 is a binary protocol. And it works great if you are using protocol buffers, which is a binary standard, and it kind of works well with HTTP2 and gRPC. Okay, so it provides you compression, your speed is much better, and the other key thing, once again, that's a part of HTTP2, multiplexing. So now you can send through the same channel or single, or the same TCP connection, multiple requests and responses. That increases the efficiency of the your network connection, improve the network utilization, as well as reduces latency. Okay, so that's and just want to mention it that this is not a feature of gRPC. gRPC is just taking advantage of it by using HTTP through as transport. And another thing is server push. So what that means is you can send a single message to a server. A client can send a single message to a server, and server send multiple responses back. Why this is important? think of a scenario where you ask server to start a long running task, okay? And server needs to provide you an update. A way to do that is that you continuously ping the server every minute. Hey, are you done? Are you done? Another thing is the server can send you messages back saying, I'm 60% done or things like that. So that's once again reduces round trip latency and all. So that's very powerful features. They are all packaged with gRPC. That's why I think you know about it. I mean, you may want to know about it. Um, and it's very interesting. And to be honest, I didn't know much about it uh, a few weeks back. I just kind of looked it up once they announced the support, and I know a little bit about it. So it just seems very interesting. So that's why I want to share it with a broader audience here. So just a quick heads up. Um, I'm gonna be doing the demo in Visual Studio just for the ease of it. You can use Visual Studio Code and Visual Studio for Mac to create the gRPC services in .NET Core. And yes, I'm going to be using .NET Core as well. 6.0, I mean, that's what where the support is. So you can use any of the tool, but I'm going to be using Visual Studio. Okay. And we are going to be creating a service first in um, gRPC on .NET in Visual Studio, then look at different parts and pieces of it. Yes, it will be a little bit kind of going through the code, but trust me, I will explain everything, and hopefully, the people who are joining this call who are not developer, they will be able to, um, kind of get what I'm trying to convey. So with that, and then we will take that service and deploy it and look at, some of the interaction that is happening. Okay, I hope that's good. Okay, so let's quickly go back to Visual Studio. Oh, by the way, any questions so far?
Nothing on the chat, Naveed, so far.
Got it. Great. Thank you, Allah. Okay, so I have Visual Studio here. And what I'm going to do is I am going to create a new project. And here it is, ASP.NET Core gRPC service. New, I'm just going to create gRPC service 2, very creative name. And let's move on. I'm using .NET 6.0. And by the way, I have resources in the end, the links to documentation, which goes over how to create it from VS Code, how to create it from Visual Studio for Mac, and all that. So, I mean, I'm just for kind of forgive me my laziness. I'm just using Visual Studio since easier to demo with that. Okay. So let's open first of all, let's open the project up. As you can see here, there are different files. And let's first go to the greet.proto. So this is a sample. Let me increase the font size here a bit. So this is a sample service that they are creating. And as you can see, this is the syntax. You have to put it there, Proto 3. So this is protocol buffer 3. This is an open source project that they are taking advantage of. This is the C# namespace. So this is when you generate the code, this is the C# namespace to use. Okay. And as you can see here, this is our namespace of our project. Okay. Then you have defined your service. It says RPC. I mean, this is a surface syntax. There's nothing to it. Name of your method, your um, input parameter, and what it returns. This is the syntax. There's nothing. And then you deploy here. And by the way, not to go too deep into RPC and protocol buffers, this is how you define a protocol buffer message. You have the type of the parameter, you have name of the parameter, and then you have the order of the parameter. And yes, it starts from one and one, two, three, four, whatever. And you can have what we call hierarchical parameter as well. So you have one parameter that is inside another one. So that's how, and we will take a look at that as well. So that's that. Once you have done that, let's build this project. Okay, let's take a second to build. Okay, now let's look at the program.cs.
It's one of those bottom windows, bottom left.
Oh man, I screwed up. Sorry. Okay, not sure why it came here. Okay, that's fine. So let's move up here. So, so this is the service. So this is the code that is generated by the um, through the interface or through the IDL that we have defined. And as you can see here, this is greater dot base. And if I go to this, I'm sorry, this is the code that is generated by the system. Second, go to definition. This is the code. Okay. As you can see here, this is all generated protocol buffer generated code. Okay. As clearly this is machine generated. This code, which is here that you have to write, oh, sorry, confusing everyone. This is the code that you have to write, you know, and you have to implement all these methods and parameters and provide all of that. Okay. So just think of it, interface, implementation, code, this greeter base code is generated by the system. You don't have to worry about it. You go to program.cs, and that's where you add the service in the pipeline. Okay. Once that is in the pipeline, you are able to communicate with the service. One more thing that you have to remember, and by the way, it's very well documented, so you don't have to kind of note it down or anything. Let's click on edit the project file. You have to add this to your project file. Hopefully, in the future, when the support is more kind of integrated, we don't have to add it manually, but at this moment, you have to add this blurb here. If you have, if you add more services, then you add those services up here as well. Otherwise, what will happen is the code will not be generated, and the automatic code that we saw in the greeter.base will not be generated, and you will kind of keep scratching your head like, what did you do wrong? Okay, everybody with me so far? Any questions? Okay, I know this is a bit code heavy, but just want to get the concept across. Okay, so that's that, and let's run this service. Okay, so now what's going to happen is this service will start. And let's move that window here. And this is the service that is running. Give it a second to come up. And since it's a demo, it's going to take some time. Otherwise, it's very quick. Okay. So come on. Trust me, when I was running it yesterday, it wasn't taking that much time. So let it come up. Yeah, okay. So you see here, this is your HTTPS endpoint. Let's note it down and let's go to our client. And I have a client that I'm running here. Um, and in that client, if you can see here, I have greet.proto, ignore todo.proto. I mean, this is, a separate service. But once again, I have this service, same definition that I have. And if I go to the client project file, I have this one. And instead of gRPC services, I'm saying gRPC client. Okay, so it's not service, it's client. So it will generate the client code. So it can generate the client code. And if I go in here, that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna kind of comment out the rest of the stuff for now. I'm using a channel. So let me increase the font size a little bit. I'm using this channel to go in. And by the way, this thing is important. So since I'm using this client both for app service, I'm just going to comment out the app service piece and I'm going to get the port 7056. So I'm going to use 7056 and that's where I'm going to go in and I'm going to create the channel and I'm going to call a method. That's it. Okay. So if we run this thing, you will see the message come up here in a second. Okay, hold on. Sorry, I need to move this window here. Okay. So now, as you can see, greeting, hello, greeting client. And so basically it's call the service and got the response back. Okay, very simple. And let me stop the service here as well. Okay. So, any questions so far? As I said, you have to do the interface and it will auto-generate the code based on the interface as long as you add it to the project file. And just keep in mind, once you make a change to the project file, please close Visual Studio and restart it. Sometime I have seen is it's not taking that change unless until you close and restart it. Okay, so just want to mention it. Second thing is that uh, in your once again on your service side, you have to create the services. I mean, directory and add the reader service there, and implement all the methods. So this is your service implementation. The next thing you do is add it to the pipeline, and that's at that moment your gRPC service is ready. Just keep in mind when you are pushing it into the app service, you have to take care of a few things, both on the code side and at the um, on the app service configuration side. So um, let's say that you have tested the service locally and now you're ready to deploy that service into Azure. What you have to do, let me show you here. So this is a service that I have created. The rest of the stuff is the same. In that, I have two services, greet and to do. And let's go into the first change that you will have to make, which is here. Just keep in mind that to support gRPC, App Service has made significant investments in the platform. They are using Kestrel, and there is a blog there. Please look at it, just to get an idea of what's happening behind the scene, how this thing is working, and what they're doing to what they have done to support it. So this is to support the HTTP2 platform. You see, and you are saying for all HTTP requests, we are listening on 8585. Okay, so this is HTTP2. This is the code blurb that you have to add in your service. And by the way, if you are testing locally, please remove that because it causes confusions. Okay, if you but before you deploy it, you will have to add this in your code. Second piece that you have to do, go into your application JSON and remove the Kestrel default endpoint because now it's taken care of by app service. So just comment out this stuff. And once again, this is very well documented in the documentation, but just want to mention it here as well. Don't miss out these points. Otherwise, your application may not run. Okay. That's that. Once you have done that, the next thing that you will have to do is let's go into the app service. Oh, any questions at the moment?
nothing on the chat
Okay,
Naveed so far.
thank you. Thank you very much. So this is the app service, and you have to go into configuration, and you have to, once the configuration come up, journal settings. You see HTTP version, you have to turn to 2.0. Second thing, you have to turn on the HTTPS proxy. These are the two things that you have to do to make sure this thing has work. And there is one last thing that you have to add, which I am mentioning here as well. There is an HTTP. So you have to go into your app settings and add a new application setting and assign it to the port that you are using here. Sorry, that you are using here. This is the one. This is the port I'm referring to. Okay. So whatever port that is, I mean, you can use any port, but whatever that is, you have to make sure you take this port and add it here. So it's, let's say it's 8585. So we're going to put 8585 here. Okay, save. That's it. Now your service is ready to receive the requests from as a gRPC. So what it's going to do is it's going to take the incoming request and send it to your gRPC service. Okay. And now you have hosted your gRPC service in a PaaS platform like App Service. Okay. So I have another service here that, sorry, that I've already created and that has a gRPC. So as you can see in the configuration, if we go in, I have done journal settings 2.0 HTTP proxy on. And if I go to application settings, this is my port 8585. Everything is set up. And at this moment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to my client here and I am going to uncomment the code for the app service. As you can see, this is the app service address. So I'm uncommented and there we go. And as you can see, it's the same channel. You see that you create one channel, TCP channel, and you are calling both services on it. So what I'm doing is, if you look in the to-do proto file, I have a add to do method and then a get to do, get all to do, and basically that's what I'm doing. I am calling those methods for my service, okay, and just printing it on the screen. Okay. Um, so let's run my client and let's see what happens. Okay, so here is the client screen. And so first of all, as you can see, this is the first line, the greeting service is called. Then I'm adding a task to the task list, and then I'm getting total task from that service. So to do, so I'm calling one method of the greeting service, that the only method it has, the two methods from the to do service. And my gRPC service is hosted on App Service, and I'm so kind of this is how I'm able to call that remotely. So that's pretty much it. Just to keep few things in perspective, this is still in public preview. The preview was announced, I think, at the build time. At that time, it was a closed preview, private preview kind of thing. And then now it is in full public preview. I mean, I'm running this service, as you can see here, in South Central region. Um, and, that's what I'm using. Second part is it only works with Linux at the moment. Okay, so the support, so you have to create a Linux service and run that service on top of it. So far, I have played with .NET Service. I'm sure, I mean, the support is there, so you should be able to host other services other gRPC services written in other languages because the gRPC support is very wide. Pretty much it covers a lot of spectrum like Node, like C++, and all. So you can use other languages as well. But in this so far, I have played with C Sharp and .NET Core. So with .NET Core 6.0, so what you need is a .NET Core 6.0 gRPC app. You can now host it in a Linux web app and of course some configuration required. And I have the list of resources um, towards the end here. I mean, you can take a look at that. So with that, we have 3 more minutes. Any questions?
I have a question.
Please.
What are some specific use cases where you would choose this over something else like REST or yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I think wherever you need efficiency in terms of performance and speed. Sorry, guys, I'm really sorry. I not don't know what I'm doing. So wherever you need efficiency in terms of performance and speed, that's where you would like to take advantage of gRPC because, as I said, it works on HTTP2. So since it rides on HTTP2, which is a binary protocol, and if you are using protocol buff, which is a binary serialization protocol, then that kind of works really well together. And that will you will use the networking bandwidth, uh, you know, efficiently and reduce latency and all. So definitely. But it's not that you start kind of throw away everything that we are doing and just run with it. Oh, it's a new cool shiny thing. I think there, as you said, there has to be some use cases where you have to evaluate it and then take advantage of it. Any other questions, folks? Okay. So with that, I will give everybody their 2 minutes back and hope to see everybody next week for another session of Azure Power Lunch. Thank you for joining, and I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. Stay safe, folks.